with the big flare-up that's been taking place on the left, this kind of conversation about, well, I suppose there are two conversations. One has to do with trying to force Nancy Pelosi to push Medicare for all on the floor for a vote. This basically boils down to Nancy Pelosi wants to be Speaker of the House. The lefties have enough in order to basically hold leverage in order to get something else. Now, the something else shouldn't be limited to Medicare for all. And if I'm being honest, you should try to get some kind of tangible material gains. The Medicare for all vote has multiple benefits that I've said before. One, you show people what leverage looks like. The conversation that's taking place right now on the left is, honest to God, the conversation that should have been taking place with Joe Biden. Meaning the fight that should have been had then on whether or not Joe Biden should get supported if Joe Biden is not willing to support Medicare for all. That would have been your best chance of trying to force an appropriation of the position. Because at the very least, it puts the election in question. The very fact that the conversation is taking place becomes problematic to somebody like Joe Biden, who does not have a huge amount of popularity. Trump is an ogre, but that conversation still should have taken place because I got to be honest, it doesn't matter who's on the other side. It is still the responsibility of the candidate to come get your vote and represent your interests. That doesn't change just because it's Nancy Pelosi. The same thing applies in the House of Representatives, which made this article interesting because AOC basically, her argument was, well, this is my argument, but I'll give you hers momentarily. But also, Medicare for all has 74% popularity. You're in the middle of a pandemic. There are, 30 million people without health care. And 300,000 dead, 220 million or something infected, like some ungodly number. 3,000 died yesterday. If Medicare for all goes up for a floor vote and they vote it down, each and every Democrat that voted that policy down, you should have a lefty running against them, trying to take their ass out of office. The principle to which you ascribed to when you first got into Congress, and I'm talking about the squad, not just AOC by herself, but the principle that you ascribed to was, we got to primary some folks. Why? Because I want to get Medicare for all passed. I want to get a Green New Deal passed. I want to increase the minimum wage. I want to do X and Y, Z. The Democratic Party is against those things, almost completely. And because the Democratic Party is against those things almost completely, and because I want to get these agenda or these items accomplished, one or two things has to take place. They either have to agree with me or they need to go. And they need to be replaced by somebody that does agree with these priorities that are in America's interests. These are America's priorities. They're not mine. They're not the left's. These are America's priorities. Having the person take a vote like that and then running against them after they take that vote, using Medicare for all as a tip of the spear. If you honestly and genuinely believe that people really do want that policy is popular, primary, tip of the spear, and make that point that these guys weren't willing to do what was in the interest of the American public, or for that matter, not even in the interest of the Democratic Party, considering 88% support it. And in this very specific case, these guys just took a vote of no. Yes, you should push. You should use that leverage. The other part to this is you being nice, you being kind, hasn't necessarily benefited you. Meaning the left has been basically on its knees beseeching the Democratic Party for the last 40, 50 years. And that beseeching has not done you well. And why would it? If you're going to give your support to Joe Biden unconditionally, without requiring anything, not only do you let America down, because it's the responsibility of the left to see to these things, especially when an opportunity presents itself to do so, like 2020, which was, believe it or not, I think an opportunity. But it also weakens your candidate. meaning the person that you want to win. When you give unconditional support to the party, what does it do? What does it put into the party's head? Why do you think the Democratic Party has gotten to the point where it says, if you are not voting for us and you are black, then you are not black? Like, why do you think that's the case? Why do you think that African Americans can vote for the party to the tune of 90% and yet have zero influence? And I don't mean just the black face. I mean policy that works to the best interests of the bottom share of that population, meaning of the poor. Medicare for all, for example, elimination of student debt, for example. I think blacks have like 50,000 more in student debt. I'm making the point that those policies affect, yes, the society itself, but dramatically affect the people at the bottom end of the income scale. And if indeed you're king of blacks, or the party is full of people who are basically people of color, then you should have those things. And the fact that you don't have those things bespeak of an inability for you to articulate what you want through the political space, through the Democratic Party. Is it possible, to any degree that's possible, that people are throwing like $1 billion at candidates these days to get elected? And because they're throwing so much money at these candidates to get elected, what do you do for the cash? Not only do these guys have a class perspective in regards to in line of the oligarchs and everything else, I'm pretty sure they know that where their bread is buttered, that when they have kids and those kids are going to want to go to school, when they leave politics and they want that sweet cushion job, when they want those speeches where they can put all that sweet, sweet money in their pocket looking at you, Clinton, well, they know where the bread is buttered. They know they don't want the money used against them. They know that we'd rather have the super PAC money used in their stead. They know all of these things. 70% of the time is spent begging for money. And 90% of the races are won by the side with the most cash? So yes, cash rules everything around that motherfucker. And in this very specific situation, when all of these people throwing money at politicians torn in multiple directions, and you, unconditional support. Why would they do anything for you if you support them unconditionally? There's no belief that you're not going to vote for the Democrat because they know you're terrified of the Republican. So they can give you a token gesture like a blackface or a gay person or a communications team full of women. They can do that. But from the standpoint of policy that is going to dramatically benefit the class that person represents, not so much. Identity is easy. That's cheap. Class, that's different. Class hits at the root of what goes on from the standpoint of the oligarchs and the people who present on television and the politicians who are basically in Congress. That hits at the root of where I would argue the societal strife is coming from, the tension. If you give 95% of the income gains to the top 1% and you leave the rest of that society basically to fight over the spoils, they will do like any other animal when they are under pressure for resources, and they will fight. I'm doing this story because I kind of want to make a point that AOC, I hope she's learning from this. And I don't mean this in a high horse way, and I don't mean this in a dickish way, even though it slightly sounds that way. It's not meant that way. I mean Democrats in general, especially the left in general. You did this for 40 years, kowtowing, begging, and they have heaped nothing but scorn upon you. Joe Biden actively went for Republicans this time around. Joe Biden actively gave AOC like 1 minute and gave Kasich all the time in the world, to which he used to hit AOC. Joe Biden went after actively Republicans. Rahm Emanuel, this is going to be the Biden Republican. So when Biden wins and you give him unconditional support, what do you think Biden is going to do? He's going to do what he's did for the last 47 years. The catch is, why did he get cover from the left? That's the thing, right? Sanders, AOC, the squad, basically, even like Cornel West was even voting for Biden. All of these people basically laid down. And to go with the notion of a task force basically is lying to the public, because there is no propensity for these things to ever come about. And that was even admitted even before the election. Now, if the left supports somebody like this, how can the left be shocked if they get burned and they get marginalized, especially when it was being telegraphed that they were going to get burned and they were going to get marginalized? Why do you think Joe Biden kept saying bipartisan, bipartisan? Because he basically thinks the way Republicans think anyway. That's been his entire shtick throughout Congress. So yeah, he can be bipartisan because for the most part, they agree on a lot of that stuff. In his head, this is the return of centrism. And it's not even real centrism. The center of the country, 72% expand Social Security, 69% Medicare for all, 67% $15 minimum wage, 67% legalize marijuana, 64% tax extreme wealth, 64% support unions, 63% Green New Deal, 58% counsel student debt. That's the all of America, by the way. Those numbers are a lot higher in the Democratic Party, and yet you can't find representation at all for those in the Democratic Party from the standpoint of leadership of the people in Congress. Those policies are America's policies. And yet, again, for Democrats, the numbers are even higher. And you still can't get representation in a way that represents those policies. What you as a lefty, and honestly Democrats, need to reconcile is why. And you can't keep arguing, oh, it's the Republicans that are doing this. No, your party just isn't into those things. They have the same backers as the Republican Party. So the notion that you're going to just get something done, especially from the standpoint of only politics, it's not going to happen. It's not going to happen. They got cover for that. They got cover for that. So Biden gets elected. Biden marginalizes. Biden is going to add Republicans to his administration, and the left is frozen out. But he telegraphed it. The bipartisanship stuff. In his head, he's bringing centrism back. And I guess my point that I was trying to make is it's not even centrism. That's not the position of the center where the country is. This is basically oligarchs in Congress. And the center between them two things. The American public is way to the left. Like, this is not in the centrist of the country. That's the point I'm trying to make. If you're a lefty and you voted for this, you can't be shocked that this is the outcome. This is basically what has happened over the last 40 years. I think it burns a little bit more this time because you know that the public wanted those things. And that makes 2020 different because up to this point, that was not the case. What was Medicare for all during Obama's time? Wasn't even on the table. Medicare for all is at 74% of the American public, 88% Democrat. That's where we are now. And the left still cannot leverage that in the middle of a pandemic to put it on the ballot. I get the performative stuff with Nancy Pelosi. That's fine. The fight that needed to take place was against Biden fighting for this very specific issue. And it is a great loss that the lefts allowed that to pass. Meaning all of the progressive groups, many of the YouTube shows, yes, the political space, yes, Sanders, yes, AOC. So when we come to this issue with Pelosi, and after the experience of Biden during the race, after the experience of the DSCC and the DCCC basically setting rules in place that would have prevented people like AOC from ever getting into politics, basically blacklisting organizations that go after incumbents. After things like that, those type of attacks, purging Sanders supporters, there's apparently nobody on Biden's team that backs Sanders. To give you an idea on where the country is, on where the administration is. And understand, Sanders was the number 2 person with a massive contingent of not just Latinos, but, across the demographic, especially the young. All of those people marginalized, froze out. 70% of lefties, the entire lefty space, from standpoint of media and everything else, voted for it. So now we come to Pelosi. And Dore says, why do you keep kowtowing to this? If Nancy Pelosi is a capitalist, she has something that she wants. She has to pay for it, right? Capitalism is not free. AOC has the thing that Nancy Pelosi wants. The squad has the thing that Nancy Pelosi wants. Their vote, their support. And if you want it, you got to give me something in return. Now, the catch here is political legitimacy, because Pelosi needs to actually believe that they're willing to go through with it. And the fact of the matter is, you couldn't go through it with Biden. You couldn't go through with it pretty much any other time, meaning from the standpoint of the left. So she may think it's a hoax. Now, the catch is, if they put that threat up, they have to go through with that threat. Otherwise, they're going to look utterly ridiculous if she blows the run. So, I guess the point I'm trying to make here is, she makes the argument that she could lose committee seats, that Nancy Pelosi maybe basically take it out on her based on from the standpoint of policy. You've just lost a committee seat. AOC was trying to get a committee seat for the Energy and Commerce Committee. Apparently, there was a fight going on behind the scenes while all of this stuff with the Jimmy Dore stuff was going on. And people were attacking her relentlessly. And when she mentioned the seat, this is probably what she was talking about. Because it was random. She was like, well, there may be seat assignments, there may be the policies that we may want to get passed, and also I don't know what step 2, and we're going to lose the vote, etc. But those aren't really necessarily good reasons to push back, because I don't necessarily believe that they're going to attack policy that the guy said he was going to do just because you pushed this. But the seat assignment, interesting. So this came out today. She lost a seat assignment badly. She was trying to get on the Energy and Commerce. She was going against a woman named Kathleen. Where's her name? Where is she? Kathleen. It was a fellow New Yorker, Representative Kathleen Rice. Now, Kathleen Rice, at one point, if I'm not mistaken, actually withheld her vote from Pelosi. Didn't necessarily support Pelosi. But basically, they had a secret ballot for the seat. And AOC got beat badly. In Congress, the most brutal battles are internal. House Democratic colleagues of Representative AOC sent a chilling message yesterday when she got a 46-13, when she lost 46-13 to fellow New Yorker Representative Kathleen Rice in a secret ballot for the seat on the powerful Energy and Commerce Committee. That is brutal. That is brutal. So you can't block Pelosi because of seat assignments. Oh, that burns. They keep burning you. Oh, you're going to push Joe Biden to the left on Green New Deal. And Joe Biden says, no, I don't support the Green New Deal. I don't support Medicare for all. I veto it. I guess I'm saying the party has been outright hostile of the priorities of the left. And the left still doesn't seem to understand that you are not on the same team. And for as long as you think you are on the same team, where you're not willing to use leverage and shrewdness in order to try to get what you want, they will put a knife in you at any particular moment. And the fact that you're not willing to do the same is problematic and a testament to why you lose. And I'm not picking on her. I'm not talking about her specifically. I'm talking about the left. The people who call themselves the left, not just in politics, but also outside of politics. When you have 70% of people that vote for a guy that is outright hostile to their policy prescriptions because they are just terrified, that's problematic. That's problematic. There's no boldness in that. There's no courage in that. And not any courage in that, it doesn't even get you all that far because you don't get any bang for your buck in regards to what you want regarding policy. And when you don't get it, you tend to lose later anyway because you fail to meet the needs and demands of the public itself. It right here. Listen to why they say she lost. They said Rice worked the committee. They said she worked the committee, tightly controlled by Speaker Pelosi and showered in seconding speeches. Basically, she was close and schmoozing with the people of the committee. Apparently, Nancy Pelosi helped, and apparently there were speeches backing her up. Yes, we want you. And I would imagine there's more than a fair bit of jealousy in regards to the way they treat and deal with AOC. Her popularity in and of itself draws a lightning rod around herself that I would imagine many of the people who are around her give her a lot of shit about. Which makes it that much worse that people have been attacking her. Basically, you have people who are attacking her because she's for Medicare for all, and then you have other people who are pretending that she's not. It's utterly astonishing. Rice worked the committee right here. One member told me that Representative AOC doesn't have enough relationships. She needs to learn from this. She needs to learn from this. Fuck you. Fuck you. Here's another one. Conscious of AOC power with progressives and other online media, the member said that would have been a different vote if it wasn't secret. Meaning, the fact that the vote was secret gets across how they really feel about her. But if the vote was open, they would have put on airs. Now, what does this mean for Medicare for all? In the middle of a pandemic, are you telling me you can't shame and cajole? Your objective is not to win. Winning is gravy. The objective is to get the vote in the first place, to be able to use leverage, to show that you can use leverage, to even show what it looks like to use leverage, and to do so boldly in the face of opposition, just like what should have happened at the end of the primary when Sanders flamed out. And the first thing he should have said was, well, Joe, you got my support. I promise you my support. But the 30 million people behind me may not support you if you're not backing Medicare for all, Joe, because we're in the middle of a pandemic. People are sick. People are dying. So, have a good one. And leaves. And every last lefty, every last progressive group would have been giving privilege, carte blanche, permission even, to do the same. I'm trying to get across to you that that's leverage. You don't have leverage in the political space. She lost that miserably because she doesn't have power in the political space. The same thing with many of the other members of the squad. 6, 7 people does not an army make. Yes, they need to grow if they need to expand their numbers. But more importantly than just needing to grow and expanding their numbers, the mob. If this vote was in the open, it would be different. And I think that bespeaks of where the power lies. Sanders would have gave those people permission. Then the question would have been posed to the party. A demand. First time in a very long time that the public actively makes a demand. Medicare for all, or you don't get our vote. Period. This is non-negotiable. And you do that to the tune of millions. And you bitch and you moan. And the key is the Democratic Party will be so uproarious about it that it will draw attention to it. The fact that we're during a pandemic, yeah, you're going to have your lemmings in the Democratic Party that's going to be bitching and moaning about it, but that is also only going to drive the narrative in the conversation about that very specific issue about whether or not it should be done. That in and of itself drags the opponent or drags the person to your position. I'm telling you, that's politics. Now, whether or not you create enough uproar, I don't know. Whether or not you can create enough noise, I don't know. Whether or not the 30 million people that fell in line, I don't know. But I do know what did happen. What did happen is unconditional support. And he turned around and kicked you in the teeth afterwards. And yeah, he was telegraphing the fact he was going to kick you in the teeth. The power of progressives online. AOC didn't have enough relationships. She needs to learn from this. I would say yes, but I would hope the lesson that she's learning from this is that they are not your friends. They are not on your side. They will put a knife in you as soon as they can put a knife in you. And look, again, some of it is jealousy. Some of it is they just fundamentally don't believe the same things that you believe. The relationships that they have are not the same relationships that you have from a fiduciary standpoint. And if you are helping basically dinos, people who don't have those relationships, who don't back those policies, well, you can kind of see the problem, right? You're perpetuating the same system. I feel that way about lefties. By backing up Democrats, you perpetuate a system that basically allows a certain degree of intransigence that, by the way, makes your electoral chances that much more difficult. The people who leave the political space, why do you think they leave? You know, the majority of the people that leave are either people of color or low age, both of which are often, I mean, the demographics may be changing, but Democratic constituencies. They got to the point of realizing this doesn't work. You may be able to scare a lot of people into Trump or from an election from Trump. You may not be able to do that if Trump is not on the ballot. By the same token, you may end up with another Trump on the ballot in perpetuity. But I'm saying at some point, the left has to realize that this is something that can go on for year after year after year. This is a moment when the iron was hot. During crisis, that's when you hit it and you try to knock it out the park. We're in a pandemic, and we couldn't get Medicare for all passed with 74% support of the public. That is a failing on all of us. If AOC had to learn anything, I hope it's that basically the best position would have been to try to drag the party to where they were. Because in this case, they got nothing out of it from a standpoint of conditions. And worse still, she's still being punished for it. So not only did you back Biden, not only did you try to give him cover on the Green New Deal, he got in office basically isolated and froze out pretty much anybody that was representing Sanders, went straight to what he would consider to be the middle, will bring Republicans into his cabinet before he brings any lefty into his cabinet. And you guys are froze out, helping him do exactly that to you. If you had to learn anything, I hope it's that. And Lord knows I don't mean that from a high horse standpoint. I would imagine she's had a miserable week. Everything from inside the Beltway and out. I guess I'm just hoping that lefties in general, so I'm not going to say her, it's not just her. Lefties in general get to the point of a certain degree of aggressive action. Not just expecting it of her, but also of yourself. Like, share, and subscribe. What is this? Chris Bedford. Oh, thank you, Chris. I appreciate it. All right, guys. I'm going to end this here. Look, I know she's had a rough week. And I got to be honest, I do feel bad for her. But this has been positive. You must understand, we have different interests, right? She's a politician. I'm not. I do media, and I try to push what I believe. Well, I try to give you my honest opinion in regards to what's taking place. In her capacity, she gets to write laws. She gets to do that stuff. But in my capacity, it is my job to make sure that the political space is held accountable. And I mean that from the standpoint of a voter. I mean that from the standpoint of a patriot. And in dealing with somebody who put out a strident position, I don't think it's wrong to petition that person to get aggressive. And not just her, all of the people who consider themselves progressive to get aggressive, to be organized, to be able to take opportunities when those opportunities present itself to gain a certain degree of political leverage. They're attacking you anyway. They marginalize you anyway. They try to eliminate your ability to even get into Congress anyway. They were wiping out lefties in the various places. Steny Hoyer telling the guy to get out the race anyway. They cheated Sanders in Iowa anyway. Even in 2016, they cheated you anyway. I'm making the point that being docile, falling on your knees, has only gotten you kicked in the teeth. And at some point, you got to get up. I'm talking about the left. And just to make this stick that much more, listen to what AOC said after the election. She didn't say this before. She said it after. Right here. According to the report, the DNC demanded to take... no, this is not it. Wait a minute. Where is it? Oh, can't find it. Damn it. I must close it. Basically, she had gotten to the point where she was considering leaving politics. And she was like, I need my colleagues to realize that I am not their enemy. With numbers like that, they think you are. And it was even brought up that some people think that she may get them primaried. You got to primary some folks. Meaning whether you do it or not, they think you are. And whether you do it or not, they're holding you responsible or liable. And by the way, that might not even be true. It might just be an excuse because they don't particularly like you and they don't particularly like your policies. They don't even like necessarily the energy that you bring to the table, despite the fact that the overwhelming majority of the American public backs those policies. Like, share, and subscribe. Also, guys, make sure you are subscribed. Hit the notification bell and hit the subscription button. Yeah, and hit the notification bell. All right, guys. I'll see you guys in a few.